New year, new podcast. Well, same podcast. Live Tuesdays at noon. Charlie Eisner alongside Keith Rayner. Our first show of 2025. Keith, I hope you Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday. I got to know what's the best gift you either got or gave.
Oh, whoa. I can include my own gifts. I could never be.
I mean, whatever you think was number one.
Wow. I won't even disclose whether or not I guess I have to disclose whether or not I got a receipt to talk about this specific gift. I will note, I know you rebranded the podcast as a new podcast. It's a new year. Is that not what the new year is about? Just rebranding yourself as a new you without actually changing anything? Like, I feel like we're doing what we need to do here.
Yeah, you're right.
But we didn't plan this. Charlie has accidentally led me into something that I wanted to bring up on the show today, which was that I actually participated in a Secret Santa, an ultimate Frisbee Secret Santa, and I wanted to share my Secret Santa gift that I received.
Was this one of the big online ones, or was this like a local?
Yeah, Tokai organized it, so it was global. You know, I sent a Secret Santa gift around the world and got one sent one to Australia. I got one from Europe. Hopefully my recipient is happy. Although I feel after getting what I got, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should step my game up. Like I wish I could go back and redo this.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's my first year doing it. I didn't know exactly. There's no like dollar limit. There's not really. So you're kind of just taking a swing and hoping that it works out. But I got from Robert in Leipzig. So thank you so much, Robert. A wonderful little gift basket, including a Leipzig Saxy Divers jersey. So I've got a new Ultimate jersey to add to my collection with a good story to it. And then a lot of like local fare. So I got some Haribo gummies and a local pasta, like noodles.
Do they know you? They must know you to get you gummies.
You didn't even let me get to I got the chocolate too from there. Like it's like a popular export from Leipzig. So there's a local chocolatier. So I got some like local chocolate. That's really cool. And then maybe the coolest part, Robert on his honeymoon picked up a couple of cards, one Pokemon card and a Magic the Gathering card, which I don't know if he knew that I have played Magic. I grew up playing Magic. I don't so much anymore, but I still have a fondness. And said like, hey, here's two of the cards that I got on my honeymoon in Japan. So I got these like cool actual Japanese trading cards. It was a very, very sweet gift. Very excited. I can't believe I can't imagine like giving away stuff from my honeymoon to just some stranger online, but that's the spirit of the Ultimate community. So next year I'm going to step up the personality of my gift giving. But very cool. I highly, if you're into Secret Santa and stuff, it was a lot of fun to do it. So shout out to Tokai for organizing that too.
Well, I want to introduce now the producer of Deep Look, who is joining us on the show today, taking a step back from the producer role for one show, Lindsay Soo. Lindsay, Happy New Year to you as well. Do you want to answer the same question? Best gift given or received?
Oh gosh, I got a lot of adult gifts this year. I got a vacuum, which honestly is huge for me.
You know what? You love it, right?
Yeah, it's great. I'm so excited for it, honestly.
Entering your boomer era.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, no, I asked for socks and I got so many socks. Bombas, the best, man. I'm like throwing out all the other socks that I have. So Lindsay, welcome. We are glad to have you. It is our bold predictions episode, as always, to start the new year. We're going to take a look back at what we did earlier, and we're going to make our new predictions for 2025. But first, we have our trivia question of the week.
All right, our first trivia question of the new year, as we barrel towards what should be a thrilling college season. You know, I can't wait to start the college hype. So I got a little help from a friend of the show and an Ulti World contributor, William Brody Brotman, who maintains a great historical site about Ultimate. So somebody who has the data, has the stuff to share with us. So I appreciate that. Ultimate Dash reference is back up for those of you who missed it over the break with some new features. But along those lines, Brody has sent me over this question: how many college teams have in both the men's and women's division won a title? So you have to have won it. It could be D1, it could be D3, it could be split across the two throughout Ultimate history, but you have to have won in both the men's and women's divisions. How many college teams have done it?
Sue, do you know the answer already? Well, if you don't,
I do not know the answer.
I think you should go
I do not know
first.
the
Then.
answer. So I don't have a guess off the bat. So can I just think out loud over who
please.
I know have? Okay, so we've got obviously UNC.
Yep.
Most recently, if we go way back, we've got UCSB.
Yep.
I don't think that Oregon men's has never won. Is that correct?
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have.
Maybe long ago. In the 90s, they might have
Not
won.
recently, at least.
Not recently.
And I don't think Stanford men have ever won.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay. I think this is going back. I think there were probably...
The scary part is D3, right? Like.
Oh, D3.
Carleton.
Yes, Carleton. Of course, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 that you feel good about so far. 3 schools.
Yeah. Did Middlebury win in men's? They did. Yes. So that's one as well. So that's 4.
It's definitely a D3 combo.
I
have a number.
All right.
Go for it.
I'm saying 6.
6?
6.
Where are you at? Or do you as the guest, I'll give you the opportunity. If you want the higher or lower from Charlie, I'll give it to you.
I'll go 5.
5? All right, you're both too low. And I'll tell you that excluding Carleton, there are only 3 schools you would say are D3 schools on this list.
So Middlebury, what is it like? Oh gosh, I don't even know. Williams? No.
Oh yeah, if you go like way back.
Yeah, you don't have to go way back for. One of those D3 schools you don't got to go way back for.
Who just won? Olaf. Because didn't Tulsa won with Olaf?
Yes.
And then Will Branch just
sure.
won. Yeah. So okay,
Does
Keith, you got to give us the rest.
All right. So the number is 10.
Wow.
And the ones that you got so far, you got UCSB, UNC, obviously, St. Olaf, Middlebury, Carleton. Here's who you missed: Claremont, UC Santa Cruz, UNC Wilmington. I thought, Sue, maybe you could find a way into this one, but
Wilmington.
UNC Wilmington. Yes.
When did Wilmington
Oregon
win? Like back in the day?
Wilmington won twice in the mid-90s in the women's division, and in the men's division they won in like 93.
Okay. Yeah. That's
See, that was
tough.
before I was born. How am I supposed to even know that? Yeah.
You guys circled around Oregon and Stanford. They're both on the list.
Oh shoot.
Really? Okay.
So that gets you to your 10.
Right all there. Those California schools have won at least once, I guess.
Yeah, Stanford back in 2002, as well as early on in they won the first men's division championship in 1984.
All right.
They won the first one, really. How about that?
The first one that I've got on my spreadsheet here.
Stanford. So Jim, okay, I'm just looking up. Can you name all of the Stanford Callahan winners? There are 4, 2 men and 2 women. I'll throw it back to Keith. This is your trivia question of the day.
Okay.
Yes, Dom.
Dom.
1997.
Gabe.
Gabe Hernandez is the other one. Yep. the 97 winner was also the men's winner was also from Stanford. That's my hint.
AJ, right? In the women's division?
AJ's 98 women, so you have 3 of 4. There's one more male player from 1997. Same year as Dom.
Oh wow, they went both schools, or both divisions.
That probably hasn't happened much, if ever.
So this would have been a player that I would be familiar with from club. But someone who would
I'll give a hint. More known recently for being a coach.
So not like Cahill or I'm blanking on yeah.
Throws a football around. Throws a football around.
Colorado person. Jim Shetler.
That's him. Jim Shetler, 97
wow.
Callahan Award winner. The only year ever in which the same school won both Callahan Awards. How about that? All right.
Cool. Triple trivia. That's three pieces of trivia for you folks to kick off the new year.
Let's take a look back at our bold predictions from 2024. Let's see how we did. Remember,
must we?
Folks, these are bold. Okay, these are designed to be unlikely, perhaps. I'm not sure that we did great. We all had a lock.
But wait, if we did great, then we probably failed, right? Because we didn't make them
not bold enough.
Obviously.
That's right. That's right. We all had a lock. Keith said Canada fails to medal at the World Championships. Not true. I said UNC does not win college nationals in both divisions. Not true, although it was close, sort of. And Sue said there would be 3 new mixed division semifinalists at club nationals. Not true. So our lock, bold predictions, whatever that's supposed to mean, do not come through. Where did we do well, Keith?
Well, what did we get right here? I know what I got right, which was mechanics break the streak.
That's a great one.
And you know what? It came to pass, and we all rooted. It was like a holiday in Ultimate. I couldn't tell you what day it is, but somebody should. It should be a holiday moving forward. At least until I win again, maybe. Then who cares? What about from y'all's picks? Who else got one right? Who has nailed one?
I will say we at least all got something right, which is good. I think maybe the year before I didn't get anything right. Mine that I got right were a little more qualitative than quantitative, but college semis was definitely the craziest round in 2024, like by far.
For sure.
Deeply true.
Not a question.
Which it doesn't seem like a hot take now, but I think the reason that I made that prediction was because the year before quarters was crazy and then semis wasn't interesting at all. But this year we really got some craziness with semis and really brought us back to the college that we know and love. And then I also got that the male international stars would start to come to USAU Club, which definitely did happen. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, that was a good call. I said Ultimate Twitter dies. I feel like we can say that's true, right? Like as a thing, Ultimate Twitter doesn't really exist anymore.
When did the Elon
2 years
happen?
ago, I
did
think.
You make the pick before? Okay, so this is in the midst of the transition to X. Okay.
Yeah. So Elon bought Twitter in April 2022. Ultimate Twitter still existed when I made this prediction. I also said that as a corollary to my lock pick, that UBC and Brown would win college nats. Obviously, I only went 1 for 2 on that, but I feel like calling Brown to win was a hot take at the time. I mean, it still feels like surprising, doesn't it? Maybe not like shocking, but surprising. But what was the worst
UBC teams to make the bracket? And I think UBC made their bracket at regionals. So,
we didn't specify what bracket. What was the worst take here?
Fury misses semis.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That was hot and very wrong. Yeah, every time I think that Fury's going to get too old, they just bring in a bunch of people I've never heard of and dominate still. So good stuff. All
Hey,
right.
it's not too late to run it back this year, Charlie.
I'm not going to do that. Let's get to this year's bold predictions. I don't know where we're going to start here. Sue, we'll let you have the honors as the guest if you want to drop your first prediction.
All right. I'm going back to the well of mixed club, and I'm gonna say I've made a bold mixed prediction every year, none of which have come to pass, but this might be the year that a first year mixed team will make the bracket at nationals. I'm predicting a kind of space heater-esque situation happening.
Interesting. Do you have any inside information?
No, none whatsoever. Just a gut feeling.
Okay. I like you're doubling down into mixed craziness.
It's got to, I mean, one of them's got to pan out one of these years.
Is it? I feel like people sometimes say that it's like we're past that in the mixed division. Like it's not possible anymore to just like pop up a team and go win nationals. Like that definitely was something you could do 10 years ago. Are we past it? Like if let me ask you this. If Phoenix and Ring comboed and made a mixed team, would you win nationals?
I think we could do incredibly well. We could definitely make the bracket. I don't want to say that we would definitely win nationals, but I think that it's very possible that we could make a deep run. There's a lot of people on those teams that have mixed experience as well. So it's not like it's not just like, oh, people who've never played mixed before, just like throwing together a team. So I think that that's very possible. I do agree that it's like much less common now, but I think it's because we haven't had something like Space Heater happen in a while, because that was a really interesting situation where it was really truly people who were still at the top of their game, like suddenly coming together. And I think that if it did happen, it would be very successful in many cities, not just in North Carolina, but it just hasn't been happening as much recently.
I mean, maybe Space Heater wins without Bobblegate. Just saying.
Well, I'm trying to think of what the impetus, like you need, what's the trigger point to make this happen? I mean, Disco Club put together a decent run last year. But like, where would this team come from? Like, maybe you're like, okay, Pony's getting old. Some of their players leave the team. They start a new mixed team and it attracts a bunch of talent. Or maybe you say the same thing about some of the folks on Fury. You're like, okay, some of these players on Fury are ready to hang it up, but they're going to go play. But when they go play with one of the Bay Area existing stalwart teams, it's like Cree is on Polar Bears this year or whatever. Like it's hard for me to figure out exactly where this team would break in the landscape right now. I feel like you need some sort of impetus, like another team collapsing or a group of players aging out or opting out for other reasons. Opie Payne didn't play club last year. If Opie's like, hey, I'm starting a mixed team, then maybe you're cooking with gas. But
I have the answer.
It's bold, but I just don't see it.
It's Boston area.
I was going to say
they
that
get
as well.
sick of losing, and they like somebody makes a new team to like combo everything because they spread the talent out too much up there. They would be way more competitive every year if they consolidated talent in the mixed division.
I think another place to look would be the Southeast, to look at like Florida, Alabama area. If there was some sort of combo team, because there's always new teams popping up around there. So there's not really a like Central Atlanta mixed team. So you could see something forming between them and like Alabama and Florida folks. I could see something popping up there, but that would be my number one pick for where this could come from.
I'm sorry for the quick aside, but I have to make a quick correction because I somehow blindly didn't see this. There was another school that had double Callahan winners. It was 2003, University of Oregon. Keith, can you name the players?
2003. So was that, oh man, just off the cuff.
That's very hard. If you asked me this question, I would have no hope.
That's right before the Sophie Jesse Schaffner age, I feel like. Or no, I guess a little bit before that.
That was later on. That was like probably 10 years later.
Yeah. So is it too early for Jody DeZono? Yeah. Chelsea Putnam and could have been in the men's division. And
yeah, it was Chelsea Dengler at the time, but yes.
Chelsea Dengler and Seth Wiggins? No.
Wrong Wiggins.
Ben Wiggins. Okay, Ben Wiggins.
Ben.
It was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
DeZono won in 99. Keith, you're game. I'll give you that. Ball. Very nice. Okay. Keith, you're up. Bold prediction.
All right. So for my first bold prediction, I'm going with the Astra dominate the PUL. Just like nobody can handle the travel except for the. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going with I'm gonna come in with I think my coolest of my bold takes. I'm going with Davenport sweeps D3, wins both championships. First time. They like basically just started their team. Their program's like in its infancy, and yet I think they have contenders in both sides. I don't think either side. Maybe you could argue the Davenport men's team is the favorite. I think I'd probably put that on OC. But they've got some great signings. You could actually say signings. Some great returners on these programs. They're figuring some of this stuff out. We haven't quite seen them break through on the national scene this year, but I think that there's a little bit of a chance. There's a void at the top, as we've seen some of the top programs graduate their best players. That's going to open up an opportunity for both of these teams to break through, and they hit it on both sides, and everybody panics and says scholarships are OP in D3.
Well, news today out of Davenport, Alex Ballantyne, formerly of App State, who was captain over there, has taken a scholarship to play Ultimate there while pursuing a master's degree. They also announced Colin Hill earlier this off season. So, I mean, yeah, Davenport's going to be good. But the sweep, that's bold.
You know me, I love a good parlay.
I mean, it's not crazy because we saw what happened with Oklahoma Christian, but I do think that the women's team isn't quite there yet, just based on what we saw from D3 Nationals last year. But I could see them making a run in the bracket, but I don't know if we're going to get the sweep.
I mean, I would say that maybe the men's team is the favorite, maybe, but I'm not even sure that I buy that. So it's going to be tough ass to get the combo, but that's bold predictions episode. All right, I'll go. Should I stay in college? I will, since you both did it. Oh, Keith did a college one. No, I'll do something different. I'll say we're going to have a sold out stadium for the World Games Ultimate Final in Chengdu, China this summer. I have no idea what stadium they're even going to play in, but whatever it is, it's going to sell out.
How big a number do I have to say for you to be like, okay, they're not
for it
to
be bold?
No. How big a stadium for you to back off this pick?
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. No, I'm sticking with it. I
could see this happening at World Games in 2022. The finals were actually relatively well attended.
Yeah, it was pretty
even
full.
Though it was Alabama in the summer and it was painfully hot. And Ultimate is popular in China. Like, there's a reason that everything's going on over there. But yeah, I think it very much depends on the size of the stadium. But I support you in your, even if it's just manifesting that we get a big turnout at World Games Final. I think it's a good take.
How big was that Alabama stadium? I mean, the one in Columbia was what, like big. 10 or 18,000, I think.
It was nowhere close to that. Yeah.
No, this was like a high school stadium that maybe sat 1,000 people.
I don't know where that was the most attended game ever, right? Was that the Columbia game,
That was crazy.
right?
I think
So
that's probably the most
if that's
people of all time.
I feel like that's where you're channeling here. And just a quick Google tells me that there are like 50 stadiums in China that are 30,000 or more people. So like, if we're talking that number, I mean, you're going to be breaking the new record. I don't know if that's actually where the World Games will end up playing, but
let me just ask you a question. How many people do you think live in Chengdu, China?
oh my God, so many. I could ask me how many Callahan winners are from Chengdu, and that I can answer, but
I'll give you the answer because guessing is hard. 21.2 million people live in Chengdu. That's just Chengdu. So that number is from 2021. So that's probably wrong. It also probably depends on whether you're measuring like the metro area or the city proper. I don't know, but it's the fourth biggest city in China. So I know Ultimate's big there.
I've got something on this, so we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll stay in the World Games arena, and let's be clear. Every year we do this, I get a little more loosey goosey with my bold predictions because I like to have fun with this. I'm shooting from the hip, okay? So don't come for me. My bold prediction is going to be that we're going to have 3 or fewer returners to the World Games roster. And this does not include alternates.
Ooh. So if like an alternate from last year makes the team this year, that doesn't count.
Correct.
They're new. Okay. That seems fair. 3. How many were there last cycle?
I think there were
returners?
5. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and who was on the team? Let's look at the team.
So we've kind of run this down before a little bit. There's going to be some tough cuts to get down to 3.
Kayla, Trope, Mexstroth, Finney.
Yep.
Normile. And I think that was 6 that I said. Who am I missing on the FMP side?
You said Opie. You said Carolyn, Trope, Max.
Oh,
Kayla,
Claire Chastain, of course.
And Claire.
And then we have
on the
Jimmy, Dylan, Grant, Nate Goff, Khalif, Kocher, and Jack Williams.
News today, Jack Williams is not going to try out.
Okay, that's huge for me. I didn't know that.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's
big.
That's huge for you.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, this is some of, not to knock my own pick here, but some of this was biased because people like Jack Williams and Dylan Freechild didn't play WC, so it feels like there's a whole lot more people in the mix. And I would say that Jack would be a very likely person who would return, but if he's not trying out, that really helps my pick. Maybe it becomes less bold now, but I do think that there was just like a big influx of a lot of talent, and we saw a lot of talent on, display at WC. So I think that it's very possible that both some of the alternates from last season and some new younger folks from WC this year have a very good chance of making it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the roster, like, and thinking about specific players, I mean, a lot of these players are starting to age out potentially, right? Like Jimmy, Grant, maybe even Dylan, arguably aged out. Chris Kocher is nearing that point, although the way he played, I mean, he and Dylan both had great seasons. So, Khalif would be kind of and Nate Goff would be the ones you would look at on the MMP side. On the women's side, I think obviously Mex, Claire, Finney, the way that she's playing, still fantastic. I mean, Kayla, I think Trope obviously going to make the team. So there's one right away. It's still going to be tough to make only 3 because the coaches are going to pick for some continuity as well. But I would take the under on 5.
Yeah, it's bold. It's bold. You're counting out, like, if you lock like Trope, Goff, and like Leaf, like you're Leaf or Mex, like you're cutting one of Leaf or Mex, and then you're also cutting Kayla, Claire Chastain, Dylan Freechild, Chris Kotcher.
It's a
Like,
lot of cuts.
yeah, I think
I'm
this
banking.
is a tough one to get to. You're banking on some
This
people
is
not
tough.
trying out, or maybe opting out for, maybe health, or they're
Or maybe
just
getting
older, so
outplayed
they're
at
like, I got other
tryouts.
things
I
to
mean,
do.
I'm
Or
just
maybe I
banking
don't
on
want to. I don't
chaos.
want to go all the way to China.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm just banking on some chaos happening. Essentially, this is always a hard conversation because it's like, anytime we talk about this, if you're going to cut someone, or like if you're going to take somebody else, who are you going to cut? And it's very difficult. There's a lot of talented players, just keeps getting more talented players, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
it's going to be interesting for sure. All club first team this year side: Anna Thompson, Carolyn Finney, Claire Trope, Kayla Helton, Lindsay Soo, Manu Cardenas, Sarah Jacobson. So minus the two bottom ones who were not Americans. And Sue, are you trying out?
I am not trying out.
Not trying out. So you got Kayla, Claire, Finney, Anna Thompson. Anna Thompson's might be injured, but otherwise, the best players from last season are that's three already. So, all right, Keith, you got a World Games take? While we're on the
I have
topic,
a couple. So I
okay.
decide
Why
which
don't you
way
go
to
back
go.
to back then?
Yeah, okay. So I guess if we're gonna talk about rostering, I got one to back you up here, Sue. I basically I was brainstorming while I was walking my dog, and I was like, all right, I feel like I got to go with a young gun World Games roster pick. I got to try and shoot my shot on who's gonna be a surprise World Games pick, because somebody's gonna be the Ryan Farrell, the Nate Goff, the Carolyn Normile, the like. Okay, we didn't they were not in that initial conversation. So I'm going to go young here. I feel like they're going to be looking for somebody to be on 2-3 cycles of World Games. So I like cut down my pool to who I felt like were top young players. And I felt like I couldn't take Henry Yang because it wouldn't be bold. I feel like people were like, that's not bold enough if I take Henry Yang right now. So I'm going to go with Sam Grossberg in the chat. Look, Chloe Akibi crossed my mind. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm going with John Randolph to make the World Games team. Just straight up call my shot here.
Wow.
JR is an incredibly talented two-way player, fits the mold, is going to be very familiar to the coaching staff with the tryout process, with playing on the national teams. Very adaptable, intelligent player. So there are a couple players who fit the bill as being a player in this mold that I'm looking for. But ultimately, I'm gonna land with JR.
I don't think that's crazy, but I do think if they're going to take a young, less experienced, maybe less like top of the country, obviously talented player, that they would probably take a big, someone who's a little taller and could be like default, like a deep receiver. And like, I feel like that's where we've seen some of the like younger folks come into play. But that's just like maybe that's just my Henry Ing bias that when we were talking about it just now. It's like, if they're going to take someone young, they'll probably take someone more like that. But I mean, it's not a crazy take. He's obviously very talented.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I also think that he's not a favorite. That's what I would say. But I'd have to go through the list.
I think he's like here. I think he's
Jack
probably
Williams
outside of your top, definitely outside the top 10 to me, and maybe outside of like your top 15.
But when you have, Joe White's hurt, so like you have like some of these top players who you kind of line up for those slots. It's like definitely improves his odds, and he's the right kind of player for a World Games spot, right? Because he can play so well both ways. like a great defender can get a spot on a World Games team. He's a little limited in like size matchups, so I think that is maybe a question mark. But I mean, it's not like they don't take shorter players. What's your other World Games take, Keith?
I think this is my 5-alarm fire. Charlie and I pin the hot wings. Dios de los Muertos, whatever. Scorching hot take. I have to brace myself for it. China wins a game at the World Games. The Chinese national team takes a W
Keith,
with the backing of Charlie's massive 60,000 person crowd, with a city of 2 million cheering them on.
You're implying they're going to be in the finals.
No, all of their games are going to be attended stadium packed every game.
That is possible. To be fair, that's possible. That would be an even better bold prediction.
In all seriousness,
they sell out every China game.
Home field advantage is a big factor in me making this pick. Everyone's traveling to a distant land, to a community that's fair. Like, we don't see them on the big stage very often, and that has supposedly having this secret ultimate revolution, right? They have had this massive explosion in growth as it's been this influencer sport. Plus, it's got government backing. The government has invested money in helping the team succeed. They're getting like access to training facilities for Olympic teams. Who knows what kind of kooky stuff's going to happen, right? What if a couple of Olympians appear on their national team this year? They're just like, we took a couple of Olympic athletes and put them on the team this year. We don't know. We don't super soldiers. It could be, you don't know.
Okay, I think the only way this happens. The only way that this happens is if China hires 14 professional athletes who have never played Ultimate before to just like come in and train and win games. But given what we've seen at the international level, and given the fact that like World Games, like, we talk about US dominance, but like honestly, World Games is where the US is the least dominant. So because the playing field is so much more leveled, the other countries are like very talented and hard to beat. I just find it very difficult to believe that China, who's just so new and is only in here because they're the host country, would be able to win a game there.
Yeah, there's just no chance of this happening. This is beyond bold.
Look.
This is reckless.
Here's how this happens. All right, this is the field is tough this year. I'll admit it. The 7 other countries, let's say 6 excluding the US, are very strong this year. But they're just going to spend the whole tournament beating each other up. Meanwhile, China's playing 16, 17, 18 points a game, right? They're staying fresh. Last round, they're fully motivated. Other teams like, wow, we had our shot at making the podium, getting into the bracket. We're all tired. We got 4 people who are injured. We barely have any subs. And then China rolls up like, this is our time, right? That's how it happens.
You really got the whole plan here. Oh, food poisoning decimates, one of the European countries, and they, yeah, I don't see it happening. It would be incredible. Not only would it be amazing for the sport, but it would be incredible for your bold prediction for this one to be one of the ones that comes true. I think China is going to have very tough sledding in front of them. I think they're going to get rocked, but we will see.
Not mutually exclusive. I also think they're going to get rocked.
There's one more World Games take from Sue. Let's hear it.
Okay. This one is just more for fun than anything. So I was already, hyping up my guy, Henry Ng. I think that we're going to get 2 Ings on the World Games roster. First time ever having siblings on the U.S. national team. Not national team, but World Games team. So that would be fun. Could happen. Not impossible. I've heard, and I know, I've talked to some people about this, and people are like, Michael Ng, that's crazy. But I've heard from people who are on the men's national team that they thought that Michael Ng was the best player on the U.S. men's World WC team.
Wow. What are your
I
thoughts,
mean,
Keith?
he was arguably the best player on a top 5 team in the men's division this year. So in that sense, I could see it, but you have to hit on both of these too. Like Henry Ing is definitely in the conversation right now to make the team, but I don't think he's a lock. So is there a world in which Michael makes it and Henry doesn't? I guess so. It's you got to try and hit on both. This feels pretty bold to me just because it's the pair happening, and obviously one's it feels like a longer shot than the other. I don't think it's impossible for Michael to make the team. I'm curious, Charlie, where would you stack up Michael Ing versus John Randolph? Who do you think is more likely to make the team?
Michael Ing. I think
Interesting.
Like they're similar players in that they both can play offense and defense, but like Michael has just got the size factor alone is going to make him more likely. I was really impressed with his play the entirety of 2024. JR on the World's team, he had 9 goals, 3 assists. Michael Ing had 10 goals, 8 assists. So, you don't want to stat watch too much on a team that's that good for the U.S. where like everyone's getting stats and they're beating teams. I mean, their closest game was 15-8, I think, at Worlds. So it's not exactly like you can really see who they go to in crunch time because there was no crunch time. But I think Michael Ing is above JR and JR is above Henry, but I think Henry has a shot. He's very good, but he'd have to have a great tryout. It's like maybe not quite seasoned enough as a club player.
Wait, you said Michael above JR and JR above Henry. That's where you'd rank them? You wouldn't rank Henry
so.
at the top?
I don't think so, no. I think Michael's got the best chance.
Really?
After the year Henry Ing just had?
I hear you.
Okay.
I think the age factor matters. They look at the players they take on these teams. They do not take super young players very often. Henry's only 3 or 4 years older than, or Michael's only 3 or 4 years older than Henry. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I just think that well, I don't know. The fact that Henry was so dominant on the mixed team, on a team that, because they don't have quite as much competition at the WC level, like tends to be a little bit more spread out. He was clearly one of the best players on the mixed WC team. And like it is mixed, and that's something that they look for. I think that's part of the reason why I think that he has an edge. It's also, Michael was injured seriously like 2 years ago. So he's coming back from that. So I think Henry has been more the center of focus, nationally over the past, year or two. So maybe that's a little bit of bias from that. And, Michael's definitely coming back into the great player that he has been before. But that's why I was thinking Henry had advantage over Michael.
So you both think that then? I think so. I think it's interesting that we disagree. It's rare that it happens. I just think that the age factor is significant.
I think I'd feel
I could be wrong.
That was way more significant if Henry didn't have so much experience. Like he's already played national
many
teams,
years of
he's
won
club titles.
Sure.
Like he's just so seasoned that he's not going to be. It's not like comparing your average 23-year-old player to your average 27-year-old player. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally fair.
This makes me curious what's going to happen when we actually sit down and pick teams.
I mean, it's unquestionably a bold prediction, but I like it because I think it has it could happen. The double.
All right, Charlie, you owe us one here.
I'm out of World Games takes, but I got one for you. Let's go to the UFA. Las Vegas Bighorns making a splash, entering the league in 2025, and they're not going to win a game. Over 2025. Is it bold enough?
I'm trying to decide if it's
wondering,
bold, honestly.
Yeah. Chad, is it bold enough? I mean,
I think given the division that
really
they're in,
win any games.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, it's true.
here's why they have a chance. Here's why it's bold. Because other teams are flying into Las Vegas. They're inevitably going to go to the casino, go to the club, show up to the game knowing they're playing a bad team. Like, whatever, man. We're just going to do whatever and we're going to still win. And they, Las Vegas snipes a team that's clearly just not ready to play. But I'm saying
Someone
that
has a wedding
despite
that
all of
weekend,
those odds, they're still going to lose. Las Vegas is still going to lose.
Yeah, given the division that they're in, I think that's the weakest division. Well, I guess Central is probably, no, it's the weakest division. I think they're the most likely to win a game in that division. So I'll give it to you that it's bold for that reason.
I mean, Ofer's hard. Even Detroit won a game.
after what, 7 years?
Yeah. Teams send worse rosters to road games when they're playing a worse team. That's like definitely a thing that happens.
Your Vegas effect is actually going to cancel that out. Like, people are going to be like, I'm not skipping the Vegas road trip. I'm going.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe they're going to pull some players out of the woodwork, but I am not optimistic. Let's see. Let's go back to Keith.
All right. I'm gonna dive back into college. I like to get creative here, so here's what I came up with for this year. One of the D1 champion teams will be a team that did not win their region. So I feel like in college we're pretty used to the dominant programs. You see the teams dominate most of the year before they actually get to the title. But I think this year could be a year in which there's enough parity at the top that we see a team fail to win their region and then turn around and win the college championship. I definitely think you're looking at the West Coast for this to come true. When you look at Northwest and Southwest women's, that's where I feel like you're most likely to get your candidate. UBC loses to Oregon and then turns around and wins the title, or you get Stanford dropping a game in the regional final and they turn around and win a title, something like that. I feel like that's possible. There are some cases where you could probably build it up in the men's division as well, but I think that's the most likely path here. I mean, I think I wish I probably should have gone back and actually looked at how common this is. I don't think it happens very often, though.
I think, if you're going to go to the men's, you could see maybe Northeast where that might happen. I think this is interesting because I don't think it's crazy that teams that, you might see upsets in terms of regional order in the like mid to lower area of nationals, but you don't very often see that from the best teams in the country. So that's definitely bold.
I think it for sure qualifies as bold. I'm like trying to think about, like, do you have a specific team in mind here, Keith?
I highlighted
the depth is so strong, and
Oregon UBC in the women's division definitely feels like a potential one that jumps to mind immediately. I don't know about the Northeast in men's with Brown taking a step back. If that's going to be as much in play, like I think Vermont's going to be pretty good this year, but I don't think the Northeast I'm too worried about in either division. But could I see Mama Bird dropping the regional final? They get a lot of tough tests from Texas. Yeah, I could see something like that happening. So I think there's maybe if we get a real spot, Oregon State beats Oregon in the men's final at regionals. That could happen. Oregon State's kind of hot this year. All right. So.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it's always possible for a crazy upset to happen at college regionals. Always. So we've seen it before. I mean, remember that Oregon team that lost at regionals that ended up getting, in the old rules, they were a 4 seed in the pool and then they were in semis. So like, it's not like that's unprecedented. All right, let's go back to Sue.
Okay, we'll stick in the college, and I'm gonna piss some people off with this one. So I'm gonna need my North Carolina friends to cover your ears while I say this. But I'm gonna predict that UNC misses semis in both divisions.
Wow, Mrs. Semis.
Yeah.
Wow. The
It's
dark
bold.
side hasn't missed the semis in like a decade.
Yeah, it'll be since the last time that the women's missed semis was 2018. And in the men's, I want to say 2012, 2013, something. I think like that.
Oh boy. This is bold, bordering on reckless.
There's a lot of peppers. There's a lot of peppers on this one. It's spicy.
unlike the two Ings on the World Games roster, this is not something that I am manifesting. I'm not hoping for this to happen. Obviously, go Heels, but I'm wondering, if is it time for the dynasty to start its decline? Just asking questions.
Brett Russell in the chat says you have to move, Sue.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Sue's ready to move to New York. It's all good. Join the Northeast Frisbee media biased community. It's so hard to see. I feel like you can squint and see one of the teams not making semis, but both. Like, who are they losing to? I mean, I guess the West Coast really is just like so much stronger this year. It's really, really hard to see like some of the talent. The top end of those rosters, they still have some of the best players in college, even if both teams are worse than they were last year, which I think is fair to say.
It's spicy. I think it's possible. I'm super hyped on this year's class of contenders in both divisions. I think you got a deep group. So in that sense, I can see it. I mean, there are like 8 teams in the women's division I think are capable of beating the number 1 team. They're capable of being a semis quality team. And the men's division, it's probably not that far off. I think it's at least 6. So I see the path here, but I think it's still pretty unlikely. So I definitely think it's bold, especially given that you with all the history to back you up.
I think what's really more likely to happen is that both teams miss finals, but that doesn't feel like bold enough for.
Yeah, that's way too much in the zone.
Yeah.
I think we all agree on that.
Or maybe
I've got
both win again, another double victory. Let's see. Okay. Anyways,
I have a bold college take. Following in the success of Portland Rhino Slam, Oregon sweeps D1 Nationals, both men's and women's divisions. It will be the greatest 8-month span for Oregon Ultimate maybe ever.
Oregon is having a moment. And I mean, look at D3 women's last year. They were totally dominant Portland. Definitely bold, but not crazy. Not crazy. Oregon definitely, I think, on the women's side last year, there was, they ended up in that 3-way tie in the pool, but like they looked good last year, and they have some really, really talented players. Like, that is very clear. And same thing on the men's side. Like, a lot of people call into controversy their quarter versus UNC. So they're definitely both on.
Many people are saying. Dude, speaking more dangerous things into the podcast, Mike, while in North Carolina. No, it was total scam. UNC should feel terrible about how that game played out. Horrible calls, and they deserve the rage.
I didn't say that. I'm just making clear I didn't say that. Anyways, go ahead.
Sue told me before the podcast I should say that. No, not true. I think the Oregon men's team is like, they're co-favorites maybe to win the title this year. The year that Micah Glass just had. I mean, they're going to be right there. The women's, it's more of a stretch, but my thinking is they have this nucleus of players that has dominated at the high school level and the YCC level. And those players are now like coming into their own in the college scene. And like, this could be the year where it's like, oh yeah, like they are really, really good and they are good enough to win now. And Keith was all about Oregon women's last year. And I said, it's too soon. And I think that was true, but I think this could be the year.
I think I
Keith?
still am.
You've been bullish.
I think I still am. I think I still am hyped on the Fugue futures here. This to me is very similar to my Davenport pick in its boldness. And again, you have a men's division team that is like one of the favorites, and a women's division team that is like a tier 2 contender in our eyes going into the year. So I think it's a very similar level of pick for these sets of events to happen. I think that Fugue has a number of teams to leapfrog to get there, and certainly Ego's no lock either. But the parlay is what makes it bold. I would be pretty stunned if it happened, but I could talk myself into either team individually, but seeing them both, it feels pretty unlikely. I'm into it though. That Fugue is super talented. I mean, they have like probably 4 players I think I could imagine being on an All-American team going into this year. That's a big number. So that's enough to make you a contender.
We each have one more pick for our predictions. I'm gonna make a personal assessment of what the spiciest one is, and then we're gonna go there. It's a kind of a close toss-up between Soo's and Keith's. I'll say Soo's though, because I think it's like super unlikely, but Soo, give us your final prediction.
I told you I'm here for the fun this year. We've seen this happen more and more. Honestly,
it's true.
Probably more in the college division than in the club division, so maybe that's why it's more spicy. But I'm saying we're going to see multiple ejections at club nationals this coming season.
Multiple.
Yeah, multiple.
All right, so Soo,
I'm not saying we're going to see red cards, but we've seen the double yellow come out, and get people in trouble. Yeah,
if someone else gets ejected, are you taking one for the pick here? Are you going out there and throwing some nose? You're saying some foul language to turn it to Mitch and saying some unkind words.
Yeah, and the last game that I'm playing, if there's only been one so far, I'm just gonna like take one for the team, and in the last point of the game,
critical point. You're talking to your teammates.
Universe.
This is our effing lives here, and then
we have to stop this.
They hit you with the card.
Doesn't count. Two ejections, excluding Soo's ejections. No Soo ejections count.
Right.
Yeah, no.
All right, fair enough.
No thumb on the scale.
I'm working on my trash talk, so it could happen naturally. Who knows?
Multiple ejections. I mean, I see the trend that you're eyeing with the past couple of years in the men's division. It definitely feels both sufficiently bold because have we ever seen anything like this? That doesn't count if there are multiple ejections from one incident. Like if there's 2 people who get in a fight and they both get ejected, does that count?
That counts for sure.
Counts.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I feel like we weren't that far from one Atkins. I wouldn't take a fight. If Atkins had turned around and pushed Mansfield back, I think they might have both gotten ejected.
That's like the spiciest fight controversy in like a high profile ultimate game in like a long time. I'm like, I can remember all the ones that I've seen. There was the UNCW Pitt one at the peak of their like rivalry where Alan Grunts shoved Isaac Saul, and then there was like a benches clearing incident.
No, I think he shoved Max Thorne. He shoved a Thorne. And
it was Isaac came in. You're right. Alan Grunts. Wow, I can't believe what they let that guy get away with and still put him on the field. It was outrageous. I remember a guy getting ejected. I forget his name now at Mid-Atlantic Regionals for just like the worst backpack bids, like 2 in the game, like the super rare double yellow of the past.
Well, Edward Stevens was present for. Mitch wrote about the one at Southeast Regionals last year with Hooch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Against us.
That was the body slam one, right?
Yeah, the body slam.
That's so crazy. Oh my. It's possible because definitely yellow cards are so much more common now than they were even like a year ago. So getting 2 in a game, which to be fair, again, I want to just emphasize this. It's appropriate that they are being given more. Like we don't need to like if you make bad like Dan Desmarais got tossed from a game and he deserved it. It was 2 yellow card type bids. Deserved it. But multiples still bold. Keith, you're up next.
All right,
Let me do mine. Let me do
pick-
mine. Let me do
Okay.
mine. Mine's more boring.
Sure.
I say we will have another first time champion in the men's club division in 2025. Never won before.
Is that Chicago Machines music?
Yeah, I have a couple of ways for this to pan out.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear
Is
them
it-
because the only one that I was thinking was Machine, and I think that's just like a tough spot for them right now.
The other one, and you can call it into question if you want, is Dig.
No, that to me that's a new team.
Does it count? Even though Ironside won?
No, that
I think it counts. Yeah.
Works.
But otherwise, it's I think maybe you have to go all the way down to like
Shrimp.
Goat.
Shrimp.
Yes. But Double Wide's got a title. Obviously, Sakai, Furious, Bravo, Chain. Ring finally got their title.
Truck.
So Machine or Dig is basically what I'm saying. Or, somebody pops off. Mallard. Friends of the pod.
Yes.
Shrimp and Mallard in the finals.
Shrimp Mallard final. Now that's bold. That is bold. Someone should have gone there.
It's kind of crazy.
I would've
Dig and
given you
Machine were
Shrimp
so
Mallards.
hyped going into nationals and then didn't bring it.
To be
Doesn't help
fair,
that Joe White
Machine,
got hurt
I
in
think
the
was
first game.
yeah. Machine very easily could have been up there.
Yeah. But then they played Pony, right? In that game. And they were getting their ass kicked. I don't think they win that game even with Joe White playing a whole 100%. So yeah. I think it was Machine's music, Keith. Let's move on to the final one.
All right, my last pick. I wanted to have something that was a little more like about not just like on-field results, something about changes in the ultimate landscape. And so the thing I felt like is brewing is changes to the GA system. So I think we're going to see some major movement towards GA reform. Now, you can note that I'm not specifying in which direction that's going to go because I don't know. I feel like the international community, the player community, has been fairly critical of the GA system and prefer to have no third-party officials right now. I feel like the Ulti-World community, the diehards, the people in the Discord, are like, what are the point of these toothless people that are like, hey, this is what I saw that was definitely not a foul. Then the person's like, I'm calling the foul anyway. They watch the video replay and it's like them like elbowing somebody in the face. They're like, I still think I didn't foul you. The GA system, it feels like it's too middle right now to be effective for either group. It's not satisfying anybody who's supposed to be being satisfied by this. So I think that with the World Games being as a flashpoint for WIFDIF, a big year for WIFDIF with the World Games and U24 both happening, I think that leading into next year, you're going to see that push for reform. You're not going to see it in effect this year, I don't think. Maybe you'll see some of the movement towards it with changes in emphasis or de-emphasis in some cases, but I think you may see changes towards a GA reform that could include the announcement like in 2026 that we're not doing GAs at all.
I think that's interesting. It's definitely wishful thinking on many parts. I think that I agree with you that there's big pulls in both directions. I have heard rumors that players have been encouraged to listen more to the game advisors rather than just, just
I can
deciding
straight up
everything they want.
say, at U24s last time around, they were teams were basically told if the game advisor gives their thoughts, you should be accepting their decision, or like not decision, their like opinion, unless you have really compelling reason not to. So
Yeah,
like that's
but like the GA system itself, were there any consequences for ignoring that either?
No.
Like,
and were there like very obvious moments where people were ignoring the GAs? Yes. But like, yeah, they are definitely, it's like they want to do it, but they won't quite do it. You know, they want to have binding rulings, but they won't do it.
That's my last pick.
I don't know. It's a horrible middle ground right now.
They both.
All right, I got one more. I'm on the fly. I got one more pick.
Go.
Charlie Eisen at Hoff. Hall of Fame year for Charlie.
No, stop.
Is it bold? While he's still active player, bring him into the Hall.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Wait. Yeah, you have to wait until people are actually like done with the thing that they're doing. So yeah, no, please no. I don't want to be the next. Who'd they just induct?
Anna Nazarov.
Mad Dog.
Oh, Mad Dog. Yeah, no, don't do it. Let people finish their careers, and then you can make decisions about what to do with them. Who's asking for current players to get into the Hall? Nobody. All right. This was great. Sue, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your bold predictions. Yeah, anybody want to? We should all lock one. We did this last year.
Yeah, it didn't work out last year, but
no, it didn't. But we still got to do it. I'm locking Vegas doesn't win a game.
That's what I would lock if I were you two. What's my lock here? I think I'm going to lock my champion doesn't win their region. I think that's my most likely thing.
This is tough. This is what I get for shooting from the hip. This becomes very difficult for me. I'm gonna lock multiple ejections at Club Nationals.
Wow, I love it.
I would lock Davenport sweeps. I would lock Davenport sweeps, but Wesley is winning in the women's division, so
you can't lock against your
own lock
team.
my own
That's
self
right.
out.
All right. Well, Sue, thanks for coming on. I hope that
of course, thanks for having me.
Succeed with these predicts. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Keith and I are going to ask some questions about Ultimate in 2025. What's on our minds? We'll see next. Later, Sue.
I think we both have pretty high spice tolerances. I think we could make it through.
That one's got a little heat.
Yeah, it's sticking with you a little bit. It's hot. That's happening. That's happening here.
Nutritional yeast, canola oil. Oh. And there's a little ghost pepper powder in there too.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, it's hard talk. It's hard talk. Woo.
Welcome to Deep Look Hot Twos.
Pray for us.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Deep Look. Thanks again to Lindsay Soo for joining us. Wanted to ask some questions. What are the burning questions for Ultimate as a sport? going into 2025. This is a chance, right? It's like New Year's resolution time. You're thinking about like what's next for you, for your family, for, in this case, the sport. Keith, I'll tee you up here. What comes to mind for you as you think about the biggest issues facing Ultimate and what you think we need to be grappling with?
The biggest issues 2025, the biggest questions about what we'll see in 2025. I mean, I think that for us, actually, the first question is pretty obvious. And that's what's going to be the impact of USA Ultimate's new CEO on our sport, and particularly obviously the going on of USA Ultimate, which I think are hugely influential in Global Ultimate as well. But to me, that's the biggest thing. You know, they have their strategic plan in place. You've got the leadership in place that you want to execute that. You've got you soon they'll have the new board members in place too, from the new board of directors elections that brought in that will bring in 2 new folks. So you know they're going to have the people in place they need to enact some of the programs to make the changes that they think are going to guide them into the future. And where are they going to steer the ship? I don't know that it's really clear yet. So that to me, that you need to see that take shape in 2025.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It feels like USAU has been muddling through since COVID, and possibly even before that. Like, we haven't had like membership data available to the broader population. Like, if you go to the membership like trend stuff, it's all from 2019 and prior. And I get it to some extent because the organization had to face huge cuts and there was no Ultimate for a year, and they were, grasping at straws with like the DIY throw it in the air challenge and the disc golf crossover stuff. Just like try to do anything to like engage with people. They had to cut back on staff. There were people losing their jobs, getting furloughed, da da da. And it's like kind of just been, let's get the basics executed for the last couple years. And I feel like now, as you put a new CEO into place, it's like, okay, well, it's time to like get back to work, in the sense of like, how are we trying to build the sport? What is our growth vision? Not just like the whatever you're going to do for YCC this year, but like strategically, what is the plan? And I feel like broadly, sport folks, like the leadership at USAU and the WFDF and the pro leagues and everybody involved, even the businesses around Ultimate, it's like COVID is now behind us, and we need to think about how the sport is going to grow for the next generation. And that is a major question for me. Like, what is the plan? What is the strategy? And this gets all the way down to the local organizations. How are local organizations figuring out how to hire people and run programs for kids, for instance? I mean, we've talked ad nauseum for years about the lack of availability of programming. So to me, that's the biggest question that Ultimate faces this year, is like, what is the broad strategies that we want to pursue and how are they being implemented? Because it's not going to be a 1-year thing. We're talking about something that's going to take maybe a decade. But like, what is the vision? Because there's been no vision, it feels like. It's just been kind of like trying to get through to the next event, to the next year, and survive post COVID. And that, again, that makes sense, but it's now 2025. So it's time to get back to work.
And as I've said before, the strategic plan is great as kind of your guiding light, your North Star, but it's too broad for us to, like, in some ways you could read it pretty similar to the previous strategic plan. Yes, we all want to grow Youth Ultimate. Yes, we also want to see the game progress. Like, we want to see a greater diversity in the type of people who have access to Ultimate. Yeah, we all want that, but what does the actual resource allocation look like? What are we actually doing? What are the programs that are helping to achieve those goals. Like those are the things that I would like to see, made visible to the community. We're going to probably have to see some tough decisions be made. If we are back here next year asking the same question, then to me that's a F grade.
Right. Right. This maybe fits into the same kind of theme, I guess. But like, what will be the progress for the semi-pro leagues? Like, in a similar way, I want to see how these leagues take steps forward. It's not enough to just exist and like continue to hemorrhage money. How do we see progress happening there? And that could take a lot of forms. I mean, I think expecting it to become minor league baseball overnight is also not happening. But like, will we see a crossover WL-PUL championship game? Like, that would be awesome. Will we see the UFA sign some new interesting deal? There's lots of things that this could be, but I want to see some progress. Otherwise, I'm going to start to feel like it's just a matter of time before we start to see these leagues start to fold, not just franchises.
Yeah, it feels like plateauing, like stability is kind of where we potentially are right now, and that is not where these leagues want to be. They want to be on a growth trajectory, and I'm sure they could drop some metrics where it looks that way. But perception is everything in this business, so you want to see that continued growth for them, and as a way to even help continue to grow the sport. We heard that USAU is going to start doing more stuff with the semi-pro leagues. What have we seen from that? Has that actually taken any real form? Not much, I don't think.
Haven't seen it. Haven't seen it. So yeah. What else, Keith?
Well, the next biggest topic for me, the question is really about what's going to be the impact of the World Games on Global Ultimate this year, both from a competitive standpoint. Are we going to see the international community, particularly Europe, continue to progress towards competing with the US? Are we going to start to see more parity, or will it not go that way? But also off the field, both in China, where we have heard about the growing popularity of Ultimate. This is a market that hasn't had a ton of Ultimate in previous iterations. Are we going to start to see that have an impact on the global Ultimate community and the number of people playing? And are we going to start to see growth in the region? And what does the World Games do back here in the U.S.? When it was hosted here in the U.S. and it was super accessible, it was a tentpole event. I mean, it was super exciting. And I think the community really rallied around it. Are we going to see that same effect again this time around? I'm curious to see what the storylines that'll emerge from the World Games, because it is really a tentpole event to me in the Ultimate calendar.
Well, and I think that, how does this kind of like major debut for Chinese Ultimate go? Like, this is not just about having the World Games. It's also like, we haven't had a major event in China for Ultimate ever. And this has been the number one global growth market for disc sports. And we're going to see it on display. And I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm going to be really interested. I think that, like, is this the start of more growth in Asia? We for obvious reasons, I think, focus a lot on US Ultimate here, but I feel really good about what I've seen from Europe. Like, I feel like European Club Ultimate is in a really good spot, and we're hearing all kinds of things about the youth movements in some of these countries, like Italy and France, and that's starting to appear to us in their results at some of the international events at the U20, U24 levels. And so, like, is Europe actually doing better than the US right now in terms of growing the game? Europe has its own problems, right? There's all of the consolidation happening at the club level with the best players all sort of like clustering onto one or two teams. And you can argue about whether that's a problem and it's going to cause negative impacts down the line. But I also feel like there's a lot of energy in a European Ultimate that doesn't feel like it always exists in the US. And maybe we'll see something similar in Asia, thanks to China.
It's definitely going to be one of the stories to watch.
Keith, you got another one, I think.
I mean, this comes from our fans, from the Discord, from Ultra World fans. Where's college nationals gonna be? People, I feel like ask every. How do we not know right now? How do we not know where nationals is? I get texts about this. People are like, "Hey, do you know anything yet?"
I've literally gotten emails about this in the last couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, they used to announce the following year's college nationals during college nationals. And now it's January and we don't know where it's going to be. Clearly there's some sort of holdup. But it's like, I don't know. To me, it's like totally, it's crazy. I understand why teams are frustrated because it's like, they really just need to announce it.
I mean, if it goes much longer than this, I think you could actually see ramifications. Like you could see a team that's like, we can't
go,
their nationals, or our school won't let us go because we're not going to make the hotel bookings within the allotted window by our club sports or something. I think that's actually possible, especially for D3.
It's plausible. Hopefully we hear, I have to think we're going to know in the next like week. You just have to think like it can't take longer than that. They have to announce.
I mean, I'm hopeful that the holiday break is part of what delayed the announcement for so long. Like that they had it figured out before the end of the year, but that we just are waiting around for the post holiday break. But
yeah,
clock's ticking.
Let's see. I'll ask one from the chat. Joe asks, what can be done to elevate ultimate Frisbee as a premier sport across all divisions? I guess I don't know exactly what Joe means, whether he means premier in each division or if he means just like generally relative to other sports, for instance.
Yeah, it's a bit of a broad question.
I mean, I think it's a fair one to ask. And maybe the more pointed question is like, what will it take for ultimate to be sort of like taken seriously as a sport and played by real athletes? But I feel like we've been asking and trying to answer that question for a long time. And, there's just a steady upgrowth of athleticism and skill over time. But to me, like it all boils back down to like more people getting involved at a younger age for it to become a bigger thing higher up. Like you're not going to turn ultimate into an NCAA sport by just like wishing it into existence. It's going to take like a huge groundswell of high school players and more colleges taking it seriously as a recruiting tool. And that's a much bigger question.
Yeah, I think you're either going down the very slow march of growing local youth programming till the point that we have regular middle school competition, because I think that's where a lot of athletes are making the decisions about what sports they're going to play. I don't think the sport can grow and subsist on people discovering it in college. Like I just don't think that model can continue to support growth past where we are. I think that can, probably level us off where we are.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to allow for continued growth. So either you do that slow march, and that's going to take 10 years, 20 years to do, or you get some flashpoint impetus. For USAU, they were betting on that being the Olympics, or getting in the Olympics. Boom. That is the inciting force that drives a bunch of demand, that brings money into the sport. People have floated getting into the NCAA, getting them into more high school associations, so the sport can be a varsity sport. It gets really one of the semi-pro leagues gets really popular. Somebody important invests in the leagues or whatever and brings a lot of money and attention to it. Like those are the kind of outside impetuses that could drive major growth in the sport that are hard to predict. You can't really account for that happening. Maybe like, I don't know, CEO XYZ is a player. Somebody becomes a player and they're like, I want to reinvest in this sport, or I love this sport, or my kid plays this sport. And suddenly a bunch of money comes into the sport and somebody really takes the vision seriously. I think it's going to come from somewhere like that.
I do think it would be very interesting. Like, what does Ultimate look like when, like, in some ways, it's a chicken and egg problem. We need leadership at the top of USA Ultimate or other organizations that are, whether you want to say the big local orgs or whatever, that people feel really good about and say, I want to help. And I want to give you $100,000 to work on this thing. And you're going to hire a staff member and you're going to focus a lot of energy into this. And maybe 100,000 is not even enough. We're talking about, like, we have wealthy people who play Ultimate. I mean, that's one of the sort of benefits of being a sport that people find in college, is that we have doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs. I mean, God, the guy who, like, is one of the key people to help invent the sport is a multimillionaire who lives in Hollywood. And, like, is he giving money back into the sport? Not really. But why? It's because there's not necessarily a belief in the people that are doing the job right now. And so I would love to see what it looks like if we can get people to care, to want to put money in because they just love Ultimate. And they say, I want to give you this cash to help you do these projects that might be otherwise unattainable with your current budgets. And it's not like it's impossible to imagine that you could find 50 people to give 6-figure donations to your foundation or whatever. They take a tax write-off and you suddenly have so much money to work with that you can, like, really get aggressive about, like, trying to grow new areas. And so that's another thing I'm looking at. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but what does that look like when people start to give money to Ultimate to help it grow? Not just hope that people sign up for memberships.
I have two more, one of which kind of got brought up in the chat. And these are maybe smaller ones that are a little more specific to their own communities, but have larger impacts. One, Jack Alon's asks, make changes to YCC qualifications states. And that kind of gets to the other thing, which is, are we going to see USA Ultimate repair some of the relationships with the large state-based orgs that it seems like they have had fraught interactions with? Are we going to see a better relationship with Minnesota Ultimate and Dis Northwest? And is that going to come at the youth level, where I think that's driven a lot of the discord between USA Ultimate and those local discords? Like, are we going to see some of that stuff? Because it doesn't feel like those changes are happening right now. We still see YCC feeling like it's a punishment for it. Access to it is only granted to people that partner with USA Ultimate in the way they want to be partnered with. Are we going to see stuff like that change? That's a big question for me. And the other one is the club regular season. Are we going to start to see either negative effects continue, decreased participation, fewer teams, particularly in the women's division, or are we going to see changes happen that can help assuage that? Because those to me are the two smaller storylines I'm thinking about in 2025.
Well, let us know what you're thinking about. Shoot us an email, deeplook@ultworld.com. We do have a Twitter account. We never really look at it, but you can always hit us up on Twitter, I guess, @deeplookpod. But email may be the better way in 2025. Before we go, we have our mailbag question of the week. Keith, what we got?
All right. Well, this mailbag question is, should USA Ultimate / observers release card reports after nationals? A list of team, game, color of card, and reason for the card. Since US teams are inconsistent with spirit scoring, card reports would be an objective indicator of spirited play. Combined with the subjective spirit scores, I believe it would be a better overall indicator of spirited play. So should USA Ultimate or the observers release reports, which you see in some major professional leagues where there are documentation of all of the basically like the calls and the refs in a game. Should that sort of thing be implemented in Ultimate to help monitor and direct spirited play? What do you think, Charlie?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And if you get a yellow or a red or multiple yellows, they post the names. What's the problem? Like, you release the data. You don't have to like make a big news release about it, but you post the data. And you can start to do things like track trends over time with teams and cards and things like that. I mean, they're keeping this data. Like yellow cards are already tracked. So all they would have to do is release it publicly. And I see really no reason not to do it. To me, that's like a sign of the professionalization of the top end of the sport. So yeah, 100%. You think otherwise?
Yes. So I think that it would be better. Like more transparency is better. If you don't want to be on the list, if you feel like it's shaming, don't do the thing. You know, we live in the tape age. People are going to see your bad calls and your fouls, or whatever. But I think that my only quibble here is that it means somebody has to do extra work, and generally someone who's not compensated to do it. Now, maybe there's a USA Ultimate employee whose job it would be to organize and release these reports, to store this data, and then put it in some sort of consumable form and distribute it. You know, maybe that falls under somebody's purview at USA Ultimate. But otherwise, who's doing this? Who's taking the time to do this? That's always got.
It's already tracked. Put it in a spreadsheet. I mean, how hard is it going to be? How many yellow cards get given out at nationals?
I mean, I think it sounds like this system goes well beyond yellow cards, right? Like we're talking a little more detailed. It sounds like. Now, this stuff is tracked. You're right. Like, I mean, the spirit scores, WIFTIF releases the spirit scores from WIFTIF tournaments. I could certainly see something like that happening from USA Ultimate, right? Getting all the spirit scores visible to people, getting all the cards, you know, those types of things are useful. And I think that if you're going to do the reporting, like maybe we should be tracking calls too. Like, I don't know. But somebody's got to do the work. There is a cost to actually doing this stuff.
Tracking every call, I would agree with you, is too much of a challenge. Tracking cards, it's literally being tracked. And if they don't want to have to do manual input, just add a line to the app, the scorekeeping app, and the observers put it in after the game.
Surely there's some team out there that's tracked fouls for the season. By the way,
I mean,
someone's tracked calls.
It's not that hard. And why should we not be able to see that data? Like I don't see the argument against it.
Yeah, I in that sense I agree. I think that if this is doable, transparency is better. Let's have it.
All right. That is going to do it for today's show. Make sure to join us for our subscriber bonus segment. It's called Out the Back. It happens live in the Ulti World Discord every single week. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of a bunch of stuff. It's a little bit about world games, future of disc sports, disc golf, and WIFTIF's involvement with disc golf, and a recent election at WIFTIF and how that plays into all of these things. So a smattering of topics. So join us there. We'll see you in just a moment. And we'll see you right here, noon Eastern, next Tuesday for a deep look. Talk to you then.
Hit the thumbs up. Give us a subscribe on your way out the door.
Like and subscribe.
Have a great 2025, y'all.